Hello and welcome to a short series of videos capturing my process as I design and paint a giant painting after Gericault's Raft of the Medusa. So what I'm hoping to do is show you just a few sketches that have taken me to this place. So this is my working composition. So this is enough for me to start on the canvas. I could have done it in Procreate, but I quite like doing it just sketching. It really allows me to familiarise myself and think on the page. So I started with a quick ink drawing. I did this for Inktober of the painting, having fallen in love with it. So this is an approach which I've used before for multi-figure paintings. There's one, a neighbour loading her children into the car. That one is based on Rembrandt's Anatomy Lesson, and this is called Industry. This is my friend Angela in Hengrove Leisure Centre. So I'm kind of using the same techniques that I used to get those, but each time I do one, I refine the technique. Maybe eventually I'll end up using Procreate. So I did at one point pick out subjects in traditional paintings that I wanted to feature. So I also want to turn it into a little bit of a game where when you look at the finished painting, you can kind of pick out references to famous paintings. So maybe you can see if you'll spot some of them in this video. So first of all, I wanted to decide what my subject was, and my initial thought was to do women's experience in war. So I was thinking that the sail of the raft could be a tent in a refugee camp, or perhaps on a boat trying to cross to safety. However, certainly the boat idea has been done a few times, and I wanted to make it capture a kind of as full as I could range of female experience, including joy, teamwork and things like that. So I decided to make it kind of span time and place. So I'm looking for kind of tropes and references that I can plug into this structure. I want to try and match the shapes and the colours, the tonal value, the flesh tones, close as I can to what's in the original, just so that when someone looks at my painting, if they know this Raft of the Medusa painting, it'll jog their memory. As my drawings progress, I started refining my references. So this is a reference to a character called Timoclea, who is featured in a few art pieces, throwing her rapist into a well. And I thought that this, the body language of this matched really well the body language of that figure spilling off the raft into the water. You'll see that develop over the course of the painting. In here I was wondering what I could use in place of the mast. I went back to the tent idea, but instead of a tent in a refugee camp, it's I think going to be a circus tent. This allows me to mimic the sail more closely and control the values, and also I wanted to have a pole dancer on here because I feel this is a kind of dichotomy between sexual liberty, but also in some situations objectification and performance. So I thought that in this case, this is going to be, she will be reclaiming this joyful acrobatic element as one of the three graces. So that's those kind of three figures on the original painting just here. And there's that nice bit of contrast there with the light. So you'll see I develop that a bit. So this is a line out. So the figure that's waving a cloth just here will be the person with the rugby ball. Women's rugby, clearly representative of teamwork and sport. Then I started to look at perspective and scale, which was giving me some really serious headaches. So I was quite keen on, quite often you can see in this picture here of Amit that I enjoyed playing with really coming forward into the view. So I was experimenting with doing that and trying to get this figure sort of falling into the well, matching roughly the location of this figure here. But that was really difficult to make it work, and one of the things I tried was putting the vanishing points really quite close together. So Tim Leclerc's very big and forward, and then the further back figures are really relatively small. So that was just me trying to work out that perspective. The Medusa is a symbol of survival of sexual assault. So this was a really potent image, I thought, to put in. But I feel as though having it in the foreground, it's so eye-catching that it would dominate the message of the painting, which is meant to be, you know, the raft is a place of relative safety. So I then started to look at ways that perhaps I could make the Tim Leclerc figure smaller and still keep the location of that figure. So I did that by moving the vanishing points out, which means that all the figures are more like in the original, that they're more similar sizes to each other. And I've also had a little idea to make, instead of the ship on the horizon in the original painting, this is the rugby posts at the opposite end of the pitch, trying to bring together composition and reference but not getting too tight. I'm playing around with trying to get these figures closer together. Again, Tim Leclerc, again there's a figure in the middle giving birth. This one didn't really take it much further. But then I really started to have a bit of a breakthrough. So I had this situation going on, and I really felt that this was quite close. So this woman giving birth is sort of inspired by the face of this one and the figure and position of this one. So I had them here, and there's a kind of back to back, these two figures are back to back on the boat, and so I quite liked, you know, having them almost back to back like that, with the figure in the shadows, which is true to the painting. However, my reference for this birth image was a midwife and someone giving birth from a midwifery training manual, and I felt that the sitting position of that midwife was too much of an echo of this one, which is going to be a sort of female version of the thinker. I'll come to that in a second. So what I did was cut it out, and in the next picture you'll see I've actually turned them round. This here will be all, this will be filled in with bodies in the line out there. So I really want to get, if nothing else, the light and the dynamic of that. But I've moved Tim Leclerc up, and I think that works because I've now got a sort of secondary swoop here where this figure here, which maps to, I can show you, this figure here on the boat with a body there draped over. So it's a woman there, and she still has the body draped over her, but the suggestion is that this body is sleeping rather than dead. And she's actually reaching up to assist Tim Leclerc. So Tim Leclerc has gone up the canvas to sort of halfway up, and although I've lost the position, the correct position, so really that body should be there, I think it's worth it for the gesture and the relative size in the picture. So then it brings me to my final until I get it onto the canvas and start messing around with it again, composition. This here in the foreground, this is a female looking robotic humanoid, such as they really are there now. So it's a reference to AI and the idealization slash male gaze kind of that's feeding into virtual online like influencers, but also physical robotic, you know, companions, etc. So this is going to be, this figure here will mimic Rodin's thinker, and I think will be academic or a researcher. So I've, just to remind myself, I've put a kind of ID card around her neck. So kind of sitting there thinking, what are we doing with this? This allows me to have the kind of idealized hair, which matches that tonal value in the painting. So just under the figure's head, there's quite a dark area. So I thought that would work. It's also a comment, I suppose, on hair. And conversely, this figure here is going to have no hair and a mastectomy scar. So it's an illustration of a very common experience. These are the three graces, and then this figure here, I think you might, hopefully you'll recognise which painting that comes from. And then this is a reference to Kat Kolowitz's absolutely heart-wrenching image of a woman with a dead child. So that so this figure here is to me, that spoke of the body of the dead child. So I've put that there. And then looking at trying to make this match the painting in terms of just tonal values, I really thought that having this, you know, I've got the horizon in the same place, I can make that slightly darker to match the painting. I've got, these can be, it's sort of in shadow, I've got that horizon there, so that will hopefully, so that'll be grass in my painting, but still I'll try and match the tonal value. And then there's this tent, so this bit here, the tied back edge of the tent, obviously when I'm painting I'll research a bit more into sort of tent forms, but it's kind of meant to mimic the turn of the sail, you know, that corner there, which is admittedly going the other way, but hopefully it's just another little clue. And then the quilt itself will have some sort of stripes or squares that reference the planks that made up the raft. And also they are a strong reference to craft, domestic craft, and the value of that. Okay, so and lastly to mention that this figure giving birth, so I don't think this is a particularly, through history, a particularly common position to give birth. Certainly I couldn't have done it in that position, but in a birthing chair it was and has been quite common, so I might do a birthing chair there. But anyway, I liked the fact that it gave me the chance to put, so the baby's head is out, the rest of the baby is in there, coming out with the next push, and then it's close. I really want to juxtapose this figure with this figure. So the baby's head, which I believe turns prior to the body coming out, so the nose will either be there or there, and then really very physically close to the android's head. And then I wanted to do a real contrast between the, you know, the sort of voluptuous flesh of this woman and her breasts compared to the hard robotic figure. So that's where I've got to. Thank you so much for watching. This was a bit of a ramble, and hopefully the next one will involve some painting.